And we're back, everyone. Welcome to the 𝐃𝐚𝐯𝐢𝐿 podcast. My name is Nick Lamparelli. In this episode, I am pleased to welcome David McFarlin. David is the Director of Business Development at Sunlight Solutions. Sunlight Solutions is in the insurtech insurance sphere. It's the insurance solution that simply works. David McFarlin, welcome to the 𝐃𝐚𝐯𝐢𝐿 podcast.
Nick, thank you for having me on, sir. I appreciate it.
Okay, so that's a big sentence, David. The insurance solution that simply works. Explain.
Sure. That motto there, that tagline is it's kind of foundational to Sunlight because it speaks to the core of, I guess, why we built it. And Sunlight was built to address some of the most common problems facing insurers that were implementing policy administration systems.
Mm-hmm.
So the Simply Works portion really speaks to the legacy of failing implementations of core policy administration systems across this carrier space for a pretty sizable time period now.
Yep.
So that's kind of where our tagline comes from.
Yep. So if we can, let's kind of look at a timeline of policy management systems.
Sure.
From your perspective, your expertise, what are some of the problems that you're seeing as you go in and kind of diagnosing what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I'll speak to the first one first. Failed, heavy, lengthy implementations. Traditionally, these types of implementations have lasted years, significant manpower, exorbitant cost, and a lot of times these projects don't end upon the initial delivery. Once you've gone live with the solution, you're in immediate update and upgrade mode. And when we built Sunlight, we wanted to build something that would really alleviate failed projects, lengthy projects, morale draining projects.
Mm-hmm.
And we really wanted to solve kind of the second half of that circle, which isn't just the delivery of the system, but keeping the lights on. And so how that works within Sunlight. We don't want to have someone engaged on a 6-month-long project directly after we've delivered the solution. So we move into a continuous delivery cycle. We can move our code to production every 2 weeks and ultimately give our clients some flexibility in and around when those updates and how those updates and at what frequency they're consumed. And again, just kind of creating an operational model that is different and potentially serves our customers better than the ones that they were used to previously.
Yeah, I call it the Golden Gate Bridge problem, which is if I don't know if you know this, but the team that paints the Golden Gate Bridge, it takes them so long to paint it that by the time they're done,
needs a new coat.
They have to circle back and they just start over again. They never stop painting the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, and we talk to carriers all the time that, and I'll say this from kind of a different standpoint. I go to carriers all the time who say, David, I appreciate it, but your services aren't needed right now. We started a project with so-and-so three years ago and we're just wrapping that up. And I say, holy smokes. Well,
yeah.
On one hand, I wish I had gotten in front of you 3 years ago. On the other hand, what have you guys been doing for 3 years?
Okay. So this gets to the heart of why I'm doing this podcast, because I want to, kind of put you in the hot seat, but maybe put the industry in a hot seat and have that tough conversation, because we see this all the time. I've seen it in my career all the time. I worked for a carrier that was just sort of paralyzed by their legacy technology.
Love that word. Yep.
And their biggest fear was that we're going to be spending all of this money and we don't know what we're getting. We could be in the exact same situation when this is over again, the Golden Gate Bridge problem. So talk about how you talked about your operational model. Can you give us something to help understand why this operational model is different from some of your competitors, some of the incumbents, the significant players in the industry who, probably have a different operational model and is causing some of this paralysis?
Sure. So yeah, I think that's exactly right. It's a lot of people lament the behavioral tendencies of carriers, big ships with slow rudders, take forever to make decisions. in my estimation, they've been conditioned to act this way based on the limitations and experiences they've had with policy systems in the past. I guess it's not always the best for Sun Light, but ultimately I can't really blame them in a lot of ways for moving in the style and sometimes the pace at which they do. There has been the policy administration systems on the market have, how do you say this the most intelligent way? Insurers have paid a price for being wrong in the past. They have become paralyzed from different types of opportunities that are out there, from M&A to expanding into new product lines, to reaching out to new states, to different distributional models. And they've been paralyzed because of lengthy, failed, costly implementations that have been happening in the past, where 2-3 years later, they're in no different shape than they were at the onset of the project. And, people are accountable to those decisions too.
Yeah.
So
they have scars.
Yeah, absolutely. They have scars. The organizations have scars. The people have scars. And then you're wondering why, a CTO may hire 4 different consulting firms to administer something that they know best. It's because at the end of the day, that CTO knows that they're accountable to that decision. If that is a decision that goes poorly, it's their butt. And so there's a lot of cover your butt moves and a lot of padding that's put into these processes as purely a result of just sins of the past and wanting to make sure that every I is dotted and every T is crossed. And it's painful and it's stagnant and it's static, and it's that very same paralysis that you mentioned previously. Yeah.
So it seems to me that there have been some massive advantage, or there's been an evolution in technology just in the last few years that it has allowed the significant changes. My guess, and I'm the neophyte here, so I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, but things like just pure cloud computing and our ability, bandwidth is healthy. The ability to store massive amounts of data, to be able to store it, retrieve it, and to play in that sandbox is probably like part of the revolution that's occurring in policy management systems.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. I think for a long time, the policy administration system, and granted, it is the core system, but it was looked at as like the be all end all of the ecosystem. And, there's way too many cool firms that are out there right now, insurtechs that are providing really, really interesting products, really interesting services, finding all new sorts of ways of aggregating and massaging data to make it appealing to carriers. And, we want to be that handshake. We want to be the center of the ecosystem that allows the carrier to go and explore and do anything and everything that they want to be, and move past that paralyzed kind of mindset. We don't have ambitions of going and taking over, of being the be all end all. We don't want to do that. If we're keeping at any level, carriers from going and exploring new relationships with other, unique and established service providers that are out there that provide value, then we're not doing our job. So absolutely, that's the way that we look at ourselves. And going back to the thing you said prior, just on kind of, more than just the operational model, but kind of how we do this. I mean, we do it in a number of ways. Again, the continuous release, the continuous delivery, that's one manner that's helpful, but everything about Sun Light is built for business. It's built to be delivered and configured by business users. Configuration is a hot word. It's drastically overly used. For us, configuration is anything that can be delivered, maintained, anything that's malleable within Sun Light and that can be done by someone without having to go and touch your code base. And we can deliver our entire solution that way. We talked about long, lengthy, failed implementations. We've been able to deliver 4 lines of business in 6 months, the full suite of our solution. And we can only do that because the amount of actual development that's going on, some interface development, sure, maybe a little bit of new functionality here and there that's needed in the client layer, desired by our clients, that's fine. But 80-90% of the implementation is done directly through business configuration, and it helps us move fast. On the other end of that, our clients want to move into potentially that operational model. a lot of our clients want to be self-service. So part of this whole, insurtech transformation isn't just the products and services, but it's the mindset of, okay, what do we want to be as an IT organization? And some of our clients, they say, hey, we want to fully outsource our IT to Sunlight. I mean, you basically just run the show for us from a policy administration standpoint. We don't need to put anyone, to work keeping the lights on. We say, that's great. Others say, we want to do all sorts of things. We're building out our own services. We have a huge IT department. That's our path. And we want to have people that are experts on Sunlight within our organizations. We don't have to rely on vendor services. We want to make, add a coverage. We can do that. We want to change a rating algorithm. We can do that. We want to add new questions to a form. We can do that. And we say, that's great. So part of this operational model is us just being friendly with, well, for our clients and our partners, what type of IT organization do you want to have? And we can really support, we can support whatever type of role a client is looking for us to play.
Yeah, I'm especially interested in that, in the part of your operational model where you discussed how, the boots on the ground. Because I remember having this conversation with Sean before, the boots on the ground, like an underwriter, a staff underwriter, where they have some ability to automate some of their workflow themselves without having to kick up a request up to Sunlight. You've built this in a particular way where there's some flexibility for those folks that are using the software to actually make life easier for themselves. I'm intrigued by that. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I haven't really seen that sort of functionality before.
Sure. So, part of some of the administrative roles that we create at the onset of a project is, who are going to be your super users across domains. And those users are able to go in there and, we're really talking almost everything. Almost everything in Sunlight is configurable. Whether you're talking, from complex domains like, full workflows and automated processing, the rules and rates, those are all configurable. Interfaces within Sunlight are configurable by business users. Our user profiles, our system notifications, even simple stuff like tabs and data, and what the order that data appears in, and the dynamic provisioning and conditioning between questions. That's all done by business users. And for some of our clients, they want to pivot quickly. They want to have people that are in charge of, hey, we want to add one new question here. Hey, we need to make this one tweak to one rate in one state. They don't want to rely on Sunlight for all of those items. And so as part of our projects, we'll be collaborative. We'll do training on our projects. They will truly be part of our project team as we deliver the initial product. And they're in a great position to then own more and more and more over time some of those enhancements or modifications they need to, and rely less on vendor services. I'll point to one really cool example. We were doing a bot product for one of our clients. The bot product had 67 coverages. So it was a fairly complex product. We did 2 weeks of initial training prior to the project. And then in the first month or so of the project, we had 2 of the client BAs really shadow our team as we created the first few coverages. I believe we did the first 3 or 4 coverages. Their business analysts ran with the existing 60 plus coverages on the project, and we were able to deploy our resources elsewhere. We were able to deliver it quickly at a reduced cost because they're taking on some of the implementation effort. And it was really a win-win for everyone. They had tons of knowledge now about Sunlight and configuring Sunlight within their organization. They were able to move to a, semi-self-sufficient state relatively quickly, to the point where they're really just calling us for best practice. There's more than one way to skin a cat in Sunlight. They may say, hey, we want to do this. Here's how we thought about configuring it. Can you get a second pair of eyes on this and just, let us know if this is kind of how you would have done it? And we love this model. So.
Yep. What sort of recommendation would you have for a carrier that is partially paralyzed? Someone listening to this knows what I'm talking about. They're currently in this situation, kind of stuck and not sure how to move to the next step because of all of the scars that they have. What is your recommendation on how they can bust out of that?
That's a good question. I wish I had something ingenious to share with you and your listeners on this. For me, it's just helpful to work my way backwards. Start with the end goal in mind and work our way back. If you can't start with what at some level that end goal in mind is, and you don't need to have every answer up front. I'm not talking like this is requirements with your software provider and you need to have detailed instructions for us, but at a minimum, do you know what role you would like your IT to play within your organization? And do you have a model that you think might work for you or may not work well for you given the constraints and size of your organization? And if we have at least that in mind as a starting point, maybe a couple of pain points of your existing technology providers or your existing system, I think we can make a pretty compelling case to be made to move forward, even if it's just with low-hanging fruit to start.
Yeah. If there was a top mistake that you see carriers make when you go in and you diagnose, when
Sure.
you talk about that, you rewind it. What's probably it maybe hit upon like one of your biggest frustrations? What's a big mistake that they're making that they may not understand the ramifications of?
Yeah, absolutely. I think of it kind of two ways. It's more of a mindset going into something so grandiose, and I'll maybe one that's a little bit personal to Sunlight, given we're a bit newer in the space. But I'll say this: the first is a newer face or a newer product doesn't necessarily mean something that's less sophisticated. I would say that's one of the battles that maybe is a little bit near and dear to my heart. Okay. Just leading Sunlight, and that is we're just about 4 years old. We are a true product company. We don't spend a ton of money on sales and marketing. We are tactical with what exhibits we go to and where we show off. Really, we are 100% focused, and we reinvest at an enormous rate back into our product itself. And I think our current clients are happy about that. But one of the challenges that I face is that you're just a few years old. You must not be as deep. It must be a little less sophisticated. You guys just haven't had the experience and the time to be able to aggregate just the sheer breadth of feature there is to be had across this space. And I would just say, come check us out. People are surprised by what they see. That's almost a verbatim quote is, "Oh, you guys are a little bit newer. I was surprised to see how deep you are." That's a fairly common piece of feedback from someone who has some experience in the policy administration space and might be seeing Sunlight for the first time. It's a pretty common piece of feedback. So I would just say, go into it with an open mind. A lot of the players that are in the space right now have led to that very same paralyzed mindset that's out there. So if you're not happy with the mindset and that kind of that engagement model, well, then maybe let's not look to the same traditional players.
Yeah.
The second one I would just say is that there's a mindset that replacing a legacy system is a sunk cost. So let me just explain what that means, right? It's like your license, we're paying a license now, we're going to pay a license with you. And everything to rip out the system and to implement yours, that's just a sunk cost for us. And I get it, but I just think it's kind of archaic. There's opportunity costs. We've talked about, there's been missed opportunities for a long time with insurers who are okay and healthy and sitting on a good stack of cash and maybe don't feel super motivated to move. But that's a mindset that'll kill someone quickly. And, from a sunk cost perspective, sure. But to the extent that you're passing on things that you'd otherwise want to do, that you're operating in that kind of paralysis mindset, again, you're spending too much money on maintenance. We have some clients that we've talked to where they spend, in 7 figures to launch a new product. I mean, these are just kind of the absurdities of the policy administration space that we really don't identify with at Sunlight. And we don't think of it as a sunk cost. I can talk all day about the numerous ways that we can bleed back efficiencies to you, but just in and of itself, if you've ever wanted to launch to a new state or you wanted to launch a new product, but you couldn't because you were worried about that cost of being wrong, or you were worried about failure, well, then I think it's probably more nuanced a conversation than just dollars going in, dollars going out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we like to have those conversations with carriers when they're ready.
David, couldn't that be a way to openly discuss that particular objection? Is that, hey, listen, you have this problem, and you think that we're potentially could be a continuation of that problem.
No.
So you want to launch, you said BOP. Let's say BOP in New Jersey. Kick the tires. One product, one state, and we can prove it to you that this isn't a continuation of some sort of old legacy system.
Yep, absolutely, and then that's exactly what we try and do. The way that we approach that conversation is, okay, what opportunities are you missing out on the business side today that you would otherwise be engaged in if you could? What is that price for being wrong that you paid in the past, and what effect has it had on your organization's mindset, how we approach these types of things moving forwards? And are you able to deploy your IT organization in the best way possible for your organization? Do you have, are you a $50 million and 50 million GWP insurer who has the luxury of, say 8 to 10 IT resources, and all of them are dedicated just to making sure that, the system's up and running on a daily basis? Because if you want to talk about a sunk cost, there's your sunk cost. You can't deploy anyone within your organization to do anything meaningful. You shouldn't need an IT force of 10 just to be able to have your billing team and your underwriters be able to do their day-to-day work. So, that's kind of the conversation that we have, and we figure out, where it is that they're losing efficiency and wasting money and potentially bloated. And we make a fairly comprehensive case that it's, again, I don't have all the answers up front, but it's let's just say it's more complicated and more nuanced and requires a deeper look than just saying, here's my license price with A, here's my license price with B, and here's what it costs to swap out one and put in the other. And that's kind of just an elementary way of looking at it.
Yeah. So it's a question I'm trying to ask in all of these conversations, is the buy versus build. And from your perspective, the build is almost like, well, we have this legacy system, right? We can just keep this thing going. We can bolt on stuff to it. And you're making a really good point, because I see it all the time. There's a lack of slack in the system. So they may have a team, but that team is being fully overwhelmed with the current technology, the current system that they have to do now. So anything new on top of it, you're talking about the cultural issues and the other opportunity costs that come with having to hire new people, right? Yes. So beyond just the technology, you have to hire the new people. You have to get everybody used to, this is how we're going to do these. If it's new, something new. If it's a new state, this is how we're going to do that. I think opportunity cost is almost like the it's hidden, right? Unless you're thinking deeply about it, you're not giving true consideration to all of the investment and expense that's going to have to go into just keeping the status quo going forward.
Yeah, and if you're talking about a technology team, that's not a very sexy message to acquire talent. I don't know many good developers who want to be put in that type of role or that type of situation. They'd much rather be working on things that could bring larger value back to the organization. So again, that's just part of those conversations that we have around what type of IT org you want to have, and whether you want to use us as a pure outsource model or we do everything for you. That's great, and you don't need to have that type of staff in house. Or maybe you want to use that team you have, but you want to redeploy them. Or maybe you're looking to grow your IT org and you want to consolidate more and more and be able to have more control over all of that. And our engagement with you will look very much like what you want that kind of end engagement model to look like for our clients.
Or as you were talking, I was thinking, I think most companies would not think of their policy management system as a competitive edge in the marketplace.
For sure.
But what if it was?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
What if your IT system was so it was modern enough, flexible enough, sophisticated enough that you could run circles around your competitors. That would be a competitive edge.
Competitive edge is being able to release a new product in an expedient fashion when there's a market opportunity to be had. I mean, that's a competitive edge. We can get a product and stand it up for you quickly. And that's what we have. We have an incredible product factory.
Can you give us an example? I remember talking to Sean about this. I can't remember the specific one, but he had talked about, it may be that bot that you were talking about. He was talking about how in a very short window, you were able to go in, assess, and I think it was an admitted product too. Go in, assess, and do all of the underground stuff and kind of build it out without disrupting the current the current products. So this was the current products were sort of remained on the legacy. You guys stepped in, built this new product out in a short period of time, and it didn't disrupt anything. And now it gave sort of the blueprint for the future products.
Yeah, and it was kind of cool too because we did that for multiple subsidiaries of the same parent organization, and it was kind of interesting the way they set it up so that the parent organization, they administer claims. So we actually did a single claims interface back to the parent with the data that we were administering for both subsidiaries. And they continued to run some other products on their legacy system. We stood up all their surplus lines on Sunlight, and we've been working on a couple of things. We've been gradually moving over some of their admitted products onto Sunlight, and at the same time, we've been expanding. I think we basically go like a state per sprint. So every 2 weeks we go live in a new state.
Wow. Okay.
And it sounds ambitious. I would encourage you to take a look at Sunlight, and kind of with the way that we have our copy, cloning, and versioning capability makes it very, very easy for us to take what's available in one state and go to another state with it. And so that's really what our team works with theirs on. Is we have a roadmap that goes, I think it's about 6 months, and every 2 weeks we go live with one more state.
Okay, so I want to end this conversation. I like to expose the different risks, right? So how are we sure that Sunlight's not going to get caught up in the same net that caught up all of these other legacy and incumbent policy management systems where they kind of get stuck building in the same technology?
Mm-hmm.
How does Sunlight not get stuck in that particular quagmire?
Sure. First is we're a cloud native application, which is really, really helpful in that we don't have to shed any of our own legacy debt. There's nothing that's being passed on to our clients. There's nothing that we've had to figure out, okay, here's something that we do well, but maybe outside the cloud environment, how do we retrofit it to work in the cloud? None of those are considerations of ours. So I think that's extremely helpful. Second is we have an extremely close relationship with Microsoft. We are a .NET shop. We use Azure as our host, as our primary host. We receive the latest and greatest in enhancements and kind of consulting and best practice in our architecture from Microsoft's team. And so we feel very good about our ability to track the latest and greatest in technology, as well as continue to have technology in Sunlight that's attractive for top talent to work on. We want to have the best developers come and work on Sunlight and work on our product. And the one way we can do that is by not making those same mistakes of just keeping good developers in KLO mode and having them work on legacy systems. That's not the way of doing that. So that's, kind of our angle there.
Educate me. KLO?
Keep lights on. Pure maintenance mode. Pure maintenance mode where you're not doing anything new, anything fun, or anything you didn't do the day before.
So I said we were going to end with that question, but let's focus. I think the big takeaway here is the native cloud, not just cloud, but
Sure.
native cloud, because it's correct me if I'm wrong, but even legacy companies that are moving to the cloud, they're just sort of porting their legacy technology to the cloud, right?
Correct.
So there's still the risk of the legacy technology. You're saying as a native cloud offering that you will always be at the forefront of the evolution of technology just because you started out in the cloud, in that space. And so anything as technology evolves and everything new that comes, you're able to easily implement that without providing some sort of sunk cost downstream to your customer.
Yep. Not only that, but we just don't have the type of, when you have that build versus buy, you're worried about, okay, what am I building for myself here, and how is that going to work for us over the long haul? And you're making a vendor decision. It's the same thing. You don't want to inherit anyone else's technical debt. We don't have that type of debt. All of our systems and services live within the cloud. So to kind of what you said, not just that you have to retrofit or port something back into the cloud, but then your architecture is kind of segmented between cloud and non-cloud services, and native built and non-native services, and it gets to be a mess to maintain, and that's not good for your customers. So all of our systems and all of our functionality living within the cloud today. Again, Azure, our primary host, but we can deploy to other cloud service providers as needed. AWS, if that's a need of one of our clients, or on-prem. But generally, when you're working with Sunlight, if it's the off-the-rack host solution, that'll be Microsoft Azure for us.
Yep. So the insurance solution that simply works. David McFarlin of Sunlight Solutions. Thanks for spending a few minutes and answering my questions on the hot seat.
Thank you so much for having me, Nick. I really appreciate it.
Okay, enjoy.
Thank you.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.